Florida fired Billy Napier. That could be some ripple effects for Oregon. One of them could be awesome.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks, talk about the secondary and just how good they have been. And Brock Thomas appears to legitimately be QB2, according to Dan Lanning. I'll talk about that in today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, Florida fires Billy Napier. And if you see anyone anywhere suggest that Dan Lanning could be or will be a candidate, you should just laugh at them. At this point, I have there wasn't any amount of concern in my head when Billy Napier got fired, and the amount that I've talked about it happening over on Locked On College Football, that Dan Lanning would be a target they could go after and get. I've heard that Lane Kiffin is their top choice, and that could very well come to fruition. So you can put that to the side, which would, of course, not be good if that were to happen. Could Will Stein be a target if the first round of conversations for Florida don't go as planned? Sure. Here's the real exciting idea. Dallas Wilson is a true freshman wide receiver for the Gators. He's only played in 3 games this year. He's limited with an injury, but in 2 of the games, he has been kept in check because the Florida offense, because they have had until now a coaching staff that isn't actually good enough to maximize their players' potential, including their quarterback DJ Lagway and Dallas Wilson, amongst other players. Jaden Ball, their running back, is good. Dallas Wilson had a 100-yard game against Texas. That's one of the best defenses in the country. And Dallas Wilson, 5-star true freshman, former Oregon commit. Now, let's put 2 categories together to talk about. First of all, my interest, if Dallas Wilson were to ever enter the transfer portal for Oregon, is a 10 out of 10. You're going into an offseason this year in which you will lose Gary Bryant Jr., because he's out of eligibility. Malik Benson, I don't believe, has a way to get another year back. You could lose Justice Lowe. He hasn't played a ton this year. Kyler Casper keeps battling injuries. Jurion Dickey's no longer on the roster. There's still a strong core of wide receivers in there. But to say that this group won't look different next year without Benson and Bryant in particular is 100% accurate. Now, you have Gatlin Bear coming in the class of 2024, who's on a 2-year mission. He's coming in next year as well, 5-star wide receiver. If you put DeCorian Moore and Dallas Wilson on the same team, you would have, without question, I believe, the most talented Oregon receiver duo of all time. And Tez Johnson scored another touchdown this week, and Troy Franklin keeps getting better and better. Those guys have been awesome to watch on Sundays. I think they'll keep progressing, and they were great. But I'm telling you, and even think about this. What if, this is an if, we have to follow the timelines. What if Evan Stewart, whose future definitely uncertain after this year, talked about him yesterday, maybe he comes back. What if he gets a medical red shirt and you're putting on a trio of 5-star receivers on the offensive side of the ball with Dallas Wilson, DeCorian Moore, and Evan Stewart? Like Jeremiah McLaughlin would be your 4th best receiver, and he looks great. So yeah, my personal interest would be a 10. Unfortunately, Oregon fans, I have to rain on your parade here. This does not appear super likely at this time. What you have to watch for, or what I've been told, is DJ Lagway. Dallas Wilson is from the state of Florida. He was committed to Oregon. Everyone expected him to flip. He didn't, then requested to be released and was granted it from his national letter of intent to the Ducks. That's why I can have this conversation today. And if you were to look at that situation and say, well, was he always supposed to go to Florida? Yeah, kind of. There's a familial component that absolutely drove that. Even more so than Billy Napier. What I've heard is he's not super tied to Napier himself, so him not being there, he wants to be a Florida Gator. I've heard he's closer with DJ Lagway. And if DJ Lagway were to leave, he would consider going with him somewhere, but it would just make it more likely that he goes in the portal. But so long as Lagway is there, like, I'd put this for me at about a 3 confidence level, maybe a 2, that he actually ever gets in the portal. He has not, at the time that I'm recording the show, actually gone into the portal. But if he were to do that, yeah, Oregon should absolutely try and get involved. Do I expect that to happen? Unfortunately not. It would create an unbelievable tandem on the perimeter. So, this question came from one of you out there not question, Spencer scale of agreement take. That's different. SSA, Dallas Wilson transfers to Oregon within the next year, mid-season, or after one full season with the Gators. Yeah, I kind of already answered this, I guess, with my with my confidence level. At the moment, this is sitting at a 2. I will give you a silver lining and say it is subject to change. Now, if Florida is not able to go out and get Lane Kiffin, maybe DJ Lagway wants to explore his options and see what other teams would be interested. Maybe he wants to go into the transfer portal window, which there's just one of now. It's in January. It's still before the national championship is played, but it's after bowl season at least. Maybe he wants to go into that window, see what's out there, and then maybe come back to Florida. But it'll all ultimately come down to who Florida hires as its next head coach. But if DJ Lagway doesn't leave, my SSA on Dallas Wilson leaving Florida is at a 1. If DJ Lagway goes in the portal, it would bump up at least to a 5. But right now, unfortunately, as exciting as this is, I don't even know exactly how many messages I got. It felt like a lot when Billy Napier got fired. Like, hey, do you think Dallas Wilson? Do you think Dallas Wilson? And I thought, I mean, it would be great because you would have 3 very different receivers in that court with Gatlin Bear as well. I mean, Oregon's receiving core is set up with talent for the next couple of seasons. Anyway, headlined by DeCorian, of course. But you lose Gary Bryant, Malik Benson after this year, a couple of veterans who have done a good job this season. Malik Benson's a big-bodied guy that you can take downfield shots to. That's what Wilson was really good at in the Texas game where he had, I think it was 6 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns or so. But the other 2 games, he's been kept in check. I'm not worried about that at all. Like, dude has always been expected to make an impact as a true freshman. He's absolutely good enough, even with all the talent that Oregon has, to be a part of the receiving core next year. I mean, you could have Gatlin Bear, Evan Stewart, DeCorian Moore, Dallas Wilson. It'd be pretty great. And if this doesn't happen, which I don't expect it to, possible, not impossible. Don't want you to think I'm coming on here and saying there's a 0% chance. Like, no, there's not. It's just less likely to happen than taking place. If you went into next year and your receiving core was DeCorian Moore, Jeremiah McLaughlin, Gatlin Bear, and Evan Stewart, you still feel pretty good. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I think it is more, I'll put it to you like this. No, actually, I think it's more likely Wilson winds up at Oregon than Will Stein ends up at Florida. I do think that, but it is more likely that Dallas Wilson ends up at Oregon than Dan Lanning winds up at Florida. Like, if you see anything about that, yeah, that's just somebody just talking, just saying stuff or trying to get a rise out of Oregon fans. Lanning's not going anywhere. Think we know that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. I am so unbelievably happy with how the secondary is playing. Best we've seen in a while. First, this episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. With Mazda, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but every day. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. A lot of you like the creativity of an offensive coordinator. You don't want guys to be boring, plain, vanilla. You know, the Mario Cristobal era has that reputation. Okay, Mazda is the opposite of the Mario Cristobal offense when it comes to cars. They've got all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season, which, by the way, is kind of coming up. We're already into the latter portion of October, the final third, if you will. You're going to see some weather out there. Maybe no matter where you live. Guess what? Mazda will give you the confidence to get where you need to go. Safety, reliability, got to have those things in a car. Mazda gives you that. Like Oregon's players, they sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at Peloton. Peloton shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton's built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Wilson Love, Oregon strength coach, does a great job. It was on display last week how big and strong this Oregon team is. Rutgers learned, these guys are a lot stronger. Well, if you want to get yourself fitness-wise into that sort of shape or closer to it, that's what Peloton is here to do. Whatever kind of fitness goal you're trying to reach, Peloton wants to help you get there. They'll track your reps. They will suggest the right weights, correct your form, make every rep safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's OnePeloton.com. Check them out at onepeloton.com. It is hard to not be excited about the Oregon secondary. It really is. So let's start with some mailbag questions here. Zaheem sends this one in. Old school mailbag question. How do you feel about Oregon secondary as we gear up towards the final stretch of the season? Personally, Brandon Finney is my second favorite player on defense behind Mateo. Brandon Finney is actually my favorite player on defense. And by the way, I talked about Mateo yesterday. He's got another gear. Improvements can be had, but he's still been really good. And I love watching Mateo play. I love watching Bear Alexander. I love watching Aaron Flowers. Finney's just that guy. Like the speed with, even for a highly rated recruit such as him, the speed with which he's just ready to go at the college level is so darn impressive. I mean, look at Naeem Offord, who played more this past week and did some good things, but is still having some communication issues when he's out on the field. He does not look like he is where Brandon Finney is at. And Offord was the higher rated recruit of the two. They were both 5-star defensive backs, but Finney is literally Oregon's best secondary player. And I think Thieneman, the Purdue transfer at safety, has been good. Don't get me wrong. Thieneman's been just what we were looking for. But Finney is Oregon's best secondary player. And that's really impressive. Really, really impressive. So, yeah, the secondary was a big question for me coming into this year because there was so much new, so much unknown. And, you know, my confidence in that group wasn't necessarily as high as some of yours was entering the year. And Naeem Offord is the best example of that. You know, you looked around and at the guys that were going to play and you went, okay, so redshirt freshman, true freshman, redshirt freshman, not super experienced. Like, there's just not a lot of experience. Naeem Offord could be a great player for Oregon. Got the tools to do just that. But he's where even highly rated guys usually are earlier in their careers. Yeah, they're seeing the field, not quite ready. But they'll get ready, but they're not quite. For Finney, you know, you look at Aaron Flowers, Ife Obadegwu, they had a season of college football. You know, even though Ife, I'm pretty sure, was hurt last year, I don't think Flowers was. But those guys had an entire season to learn the playbook, to learn the scheme, to learn the speed, to adjust, all of that. Their redshirt freshman, Finney's just out there first year. It's not normal. This is not normal behavior, the way that he is playing. He's not just good. He is trending towards, I think, being an All-American corner. Not just a freshman All-American, just an All-American period. That's the way it looks. So, yeah, I think the secondary has been awesome. I talked about Flowers earlier this week. He's been great. You know, Iffy has been good. Thieneman's been good. Finney's been great. And then Jaden Kennedy. Man, one of the most pleasant surprises in the secondary this year. And then you've got other guys like Sione Lalea, Dalen Austin, Theron Johnson, Offord that, you know, have been fine, solid in spurts. But the other guys that are your high-end rotation players with that group, yeah, they've been as good as you could ask for. This one from a Locked On Ducks insider. Florida State is currently talking about Mike Norvell's future and if he will stay. Yeah, it's a disaster. If he gets fired and Will Stein leaves, would and should Dan Lanning reach out to him, since I imagine he's on his, quote, Rolodex of names, especially since they worked together at Memphis. If I had to put this as an SSA, I would give it a 7. that Dan would at least make contact, but I think that Mike would still want a head coaching job. Yeah, this is an interesting one. You need to pull up Norvell's history real quick, because I definitely am with you that, when coaches are fired from a particular spot, where they tend to lean on is people they know. They'll go to places where they kind of, attempt to rehab their image. But, he was at Tulsa for a while, passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach. At Pitt, he was the co-OC. He was the Arizona State offensive coordinator for 2 years. Then he was the OC and associate head coach for 2 more years, so 4 total in Tempe before going to Memphis. I think there's some crossover with his time at ASU and Lanning's as well. So he's got experience in that. I don't remember if he was the play caller. That was the Todd Graham era of Arizona State, so he probably was. But, yeah, I think there'd be a phone call, some interest. He's a veteran guy. If I were to make a list of coordinators, would Mike Norvell, if he gets fired from Florida State, be my number one option? No. I would be more open, or more positive, I should say, to Lanning bringing him on as like a senior offensive analyst. Like a guy that's been around college football for that long, like just because he's not running a successful program right now, ever since they got left out of the playoff, it's been just a complete and utter disaster, save for that one win against Alabama earlier this year, which I continue to not understand. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have insight or value to his staff. Would I want him to be the OC? I'd have to do a deeper dive on that. But yeah, my SSA on him, making contact with Dan Lanning at some point, yeah, I'd probably put that at about an 8. I don't know that he'd automatically hire him. I'm just saying, would they talk? Yeah, I'm sure they would. Alaskan Girl Dad sends this one in. SSA, the Ducks next year are what Penn State was supposed to be this year, and Michigan, Ohio State were. Despite high draft evals, the vast majority of players run it back for one more shot at a natty. Mateo, Amari, Poncho, Sadiq, Evan Stewart, Dante, and Dylan Thieneman all run it back, funded 100% by Phil Knight. I did see, according to On3, that Dante Moore and Decorian Moore got an NIL deal with Nike. I think that helps bring a player back who's draft eligible, which Dante Moore is, Decorian Moore is not. So that's important to make sure Decorian wouldn't entertain options going elsewhere. Not that I thought that was particularly likely, seeing as how he's Oregon's leading receiver as a true freshman and will likely only get better. But for Dante Moore, it'll probably be the number one offseason question I talk about on the show is, would he come back? Would he leave? Where should he go? And all that sort of stuff. But yeah, an SSA on all of those guys coming back. Sadiq, I have seen mocked as the first tight end taken in the NFL draft next year, regardless of what opportunity you have in college. Let's say Oregon doesn't win the national championship this year, which given my look as a fan is just kind of destined to happen at this point. I was going to go all day without talking about the Mariners. It's just so bad. Anyway, so when you're going to be drafted that high, potentially, it's tough. I can imagine they tried to get Josh Connerly and or Derek Harmon to come back, and when you're going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, as much as you can make in college football, there's still more available as a first-round NFL draft pick. So if Sadiq is going to get mocked to go, 12th overall, man, it's going to be tough. So because you put all of those names in there, and Poncho's great, Amari Washington's a beast, Mateo, Evan Stewart. Mateo at the moment could be trending towards coming back for another year of development to up his draft stock. We'll see how the second half of the season goes. But all of those guys coming back, Mateo, Amari Washington, Poncho, Sadiq, Evan Stewart, Dante, and Dylan Thieneman, all of them, I'm at a 2. I'm at a 2 that they would all come back. Half of them, different question, but not the one you asked, so I will only answer that which is asked. So, Brock Thomas, apparently, quarterback 2. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best. College football is back, and I love it. You love it. We all love it, but you don't want getting tickets to an Oregon game to be more of a hassle than the actual game itself. You just, nobody's asking for that. Other ticketing sites will give you endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. It's a nightmare, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I've used Game Time multiple times in the last couple of months to buy tickets to events and whatnot in Las Vegas, including Oregon's basketball game against Auburn on November 24th. I will be there for that. Cannot wait. Going to be fun. Season's right around the corner. It's almost crossover season. Really exciting. But guess what? The tickets I got on Game Time, I looked at other ticketing sites and saved money on every ticket. The tickets I got to go see John Mulaney saved hundreds of dollars, quite literally. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So Dan Lanning, in one of his press appearances this week, was asked about Brock Thomas stepping in and being quarterback 2, it seems. And look, I thought there might be something with Austin Novosad's injury because that was something he was put on the injury report for earlier this season. I thought maybe it was still nagging and they were just being very, Lanning-esque with injury talk and not putting all the stuff out there. And that is not at least what Dan Lanning said earlier this week. He indicated, no, they've all done a good job and we like what they're doing, but Brock has earned the right to be in that quarterback 2 spot. And that makes me go, whoa, say what now? I watched Novosad and Moga in the spring game and went, man. Now I saw Brock Thomas in the spring game make a couple throws and dude looks like he can spin it, no doubt. He wasn't the highest rated recruit of the 3. He was the lowest rated recruit of the 3 by far. Would this make some sense given what we've seen when Oregon gets the game out of hand, as they should on Saturday against Wisconsin? Yeah, it definitely would. It's just confusing. It's confusing because when we've seen Austin Novosad, and obviously we haven't seen as much as the staff, he looks like a guy that could be not just a capable backup quarterback, but a capable starting quarterback. However, think about it like this. In the opportunities Brock Thomas has gotten this year when he's taken the field, let's say you never listened to or watched this show and you were just watching Oregon football for the first time and you knew who Dante Moore was and you knew a couple of the other guys, but you're really starting to learn about the players as the season has gone on for the first time. If you watched Brock Thomas and the throws that he has made, just look at Saturday. 3 of 4 for, what was it, 6, let me pull up the stats real quick. But 3 or 4 passing. He ran the ball once for 15 yards as well. He's not the biggest guy out there, but looks incapable. He's 3 of 4 for 45 yards, and he carried it once for 15 yards. What would your perception of him be if Luke Moga did that? Or if Austin Novosad did that? Again, small sample size, all we've got to go on. If one of those guys did it because of their recruiting backstory, you would think, oh, Oregon is so set at quarterback in the coming years. Right? You'd think, oh, Oregon's got a good backup quarterback too. Yeah, Dante Moore is great, but man, look at this other guy. He's kind of small, but it looks like he's got a good arm. And then you'd look him up and go, well, wow, he had a great career at Sheldon High School, so he's like an Oregon guy, and he looks like he's comfortable out there and he can move a little bit. Just think about that. If you wonder, like, how could this be happening? Or like, what's going on? What's wrong with Novosad and Moga? I don't know that anything's necessarily wrong. Now, coaches give a lot of coach speak answers. This could definitely be one of them that tend towards, saying good things about players, even when there aren't always great things to say. And it can be hard to read between the tea leaves and all that sort of stuff. Did Lanning have to say, Moga and Austin Novosad have also done a good job? Brock Thomas has just earned it? No, he didn't. He didn't have to. If Moga and Novosad were struggling, he could come out and say, yeah, Brock Thomas just been better. We're wanting to see more from Austin and Luke, but we still believe in their potential going forward. He didn't say that deliberately. You make of that whatever you like. Lanning is very intentional with every single comment that he makes. But I just think that if either of those guys looked the way that Brock Thomas has, we'd go, oh, yep, that's exactly how they should. Well, some guys are under-recruited. Justin Herbert was a 3-star recruit. Marcus Mariota was a borderline 3 or 4-star recruit. Those guys are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the history of Oregon football. So maybe Brock Thomas was just under-recruited and he's been in the system for a couple of years and the guy just knows how to throw the ball really well. Maybe that's all it is. Or maybe Luke Moga and Austin Novosad are not progressing as passers as much as we'd like them to, and the transfer portal quarterback talk will reemerge in this offseason. Those are the directions that this can go. From what we've seen and what I think so far is that it is more in the realm of Thomas has overperformed expectations than Novosad and Moga just don't have as much ability as we thought. That's just my take on the situation. Speaking of young guys, Dylan Williams was talking this week, and Scopel tweeted out the quote. Eric Scopel, 24/7, friend of the program. But he is a guy that I thought might have a role this year, or at least some of them, or one of them were going to amongst the young redshirt freshman linebackers, Braden Platt, Kamar Mathudi, Dylan Williams. I looked at Oregon's running back room coming into the season and thought, well, one of them's got to have a role. I don't know if it's a big role, but it's got to be a role because Oregon's played 4 backers the last couple of years. Well, that might have been the plan, and Oregon's linebackers, while fine, they're not elite. I don't think they're horrible. They're the worst unit on Oregon's defense. It's a relative weakness, not a general one. But Dylan Williams was asked, and here's the quote. Quote, I was getting more like a stinger pain going down the left side of my arm, but everything was able to heal back. I'm 100% now. I don't have any type of pain going down my neck or arm, but I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the neck pad. And the neck injury is what has kept him out of playing what he thought was going to be a little bit more of a role. The quote continues. Again, Scopel tweeted this out. You can go read all the quotes that he got from earlier this week at the media availability. But Dylan Williams said, quote, I was really running with the ones and competing for a real starting spot there, and to get hurt a week before the game was a lot for me, but my coaches told me to trust the process and my time will come, end quote. So as he gets healthier, maybe we see more Dylan Williams at linebacker, and maybe the linebacker play has been a tad suspect because they were going to go with Dylan Williams. Now, again, this could just be media speak. This could just be him being confident. Maybe he was just getting thrown in with the ones to see how he performed. We don't really know. But something to monitor there, that he hasn't been at 100%. We did see him, I think, mostly with the 2s over the weekend against Rutgers, but something to keep an eye on there. I don't think snaps are ungettable at the linebacker position for somebody that hasn't played a ton this season. I really, really don't. So just keep an eye on that one. I'll share my thoughts on the latest Ducks versus them. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that right now. So I love that Dan Lanning showed a lot of clips talking about the Indiana game, the improvement that is needed. The theme was, going to the doctor, take your medicine, get better, and all that sort of stuff. But, I think that the energy and life that was on the sideline, that was the number one thing I wanted to see coming into this game was, hey, do you have juice to go play a Rutgers team in Piscataway that you should beat the crap out of? And like, do you have that intensity, that drive, that foot? This team looks like they do. Like emotionally, the results on the field, I felt like were exactly what we wanted. And I think going forward, that should happen again against Wisconsin. And then you're going to get some more serious tests. Iowa and Minnesota are moderate tests. USC and Washington are good tests for this Oregon team. But only 5 games left in the regular season. 5 games, you control your own destiny and make the college football playoff. So they got that going for them. Fun question to end today's show. Real fun question to end today's show. From Coach Jay. If you could make your own Oregon team from the 2022 to 25 rosters, who would you choose to start in each position on offense and defense? This is tough. I had to take some time to do this. This is, of course, every team that Lanning has put on the field. I'm just going to make my run through. By the way, I got yesterday's trivia question correct. George Shaw was taken number 1 overall in 1955. Go me. Got another one right. Love Tuesday trivia. But my own team from the Dan Lanning era. Listen for how many guys on this year's team would be on the roster. For me, quarterback, I'm going with Bo Nix. I went back and forth between him and Dante. I'm going with Bo. Bo is awesome. I'm going Bo Nix. Running backs, I'll put 3 in there. Bucky with De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davison. Wide receiver, DeCorian, Tez, and then either Troy Franklin or Evan Stewart. Don't really care. Tight end, Kenny Sadiq. Left tackle, Connerly. Left guard, Preynon. He's that good. At center, I would put Alex Forsythe and slide Jackson Powers Johnson over to right guard. And at right tackle, I'd put TJ Bass. Defensive end, Jordan Birch. I considered Tatum Tuioti. I still think Birch has more high-end. It's kind of a toss-up. That's like 51-49 Jordan Birch for me. Defensive tackle, Derek Harmon. Nose guard, Amari Washington, obviously. I'm chair of the Amari Washington fan club. At Jack linebacker, I'm putting Mateo. At Mike, I'm putting Jeff Bossa. And at the money, I'm putting either Noah Sewell or Bryce Betcher. Probably put Noah Sewell to have a little bit more help in the run support. The nickelback, I thought about Jaden Kennedy, but I'm a big Nico Reed fan, so I'd put him there. At corner, Gonzo, 100%, and Finney on the other side. At free safety, Dylan Thieneman. At strong safety, Aaron Flowers. So, again, 4 years worth of teams. And if I put together an all-Oregon team, I've got De'Aaron Hill, Jordan Davison, DeCorian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq, Emmanuel Preynon, Amari Washington, this year's Amari Washington, obviously. I'd probably lean with Noah Sewell over Bryce. So then Brandon Finney, Dylan Thieneman, and Aaron Flowers. 9. Almost an entire side of the ball. This roster is playing really well. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.